My name's Nandini Somaya Sampath. I'm an architect. We have a studio based out of Mumbai called SNK, creating ideal spaces. The Mexican architect Luis Barragan said, I think ideal spaces should have elements of magic, serenity, sorcery, and mystery. When I looked at the definition of ideal spaces, it came across as that which is only in the imagination or that which is perfect. But there's also an extended definition, that which is the best possible solution. So when I looked at workplace design in particular, we as architects try to achieve the best possible solution. And today I'm here to deconstruct some of my thought process with regard to this. Before I was an architect, I was a lawyer. So my brain is rigged in a particular way. It forces me to think like this. So very much first research and then understanding, and then finally we reach interpretation. So I began the topic with research, the relationship between the workplaces and the generations in those spaces. So when I looked at the generations, I came across four specifically in the workspace. The traditionalists, they were called the greatest generation. They are those born before 1964. Then we have the baby boomers. They're born between 1946 and 1964. And then finally Generation X, which is 1965 to 1979. And we have the millennials, which are born from 1980 to 2004. Now for me to get better insight into all these generations, I decided to look at my own family tree. I come from a small part of Karnataka called Coorg. We are known for our coffee estates and our paddy fields. We are the Kodavas, which is a warrior clan, and you can see my father here, up here, with his pichakati or his sword, which we used for harvesting as well as protecting the clan. Many Kodavas went on to serve in the armed forces of India. And I look at the traditionalists, which are my grandparents. Both my grandfathers were in the armed forces, and these were some of the words connected with traditionalists. My paternal grandfather on the left, Brigadier Somaya, served as a medical doctor in the army. He served in World War II, and you can see him here with his second field hygiene section, serving out of Iran. And on the right, my maternal grandfather, K.M. Channappa, also fought in World War II as a captain, but he was very involved with nation building post that. And he was responsible for many of the hydroelectric plants that were built in India. So what was workplaces like at that time? On the left is a factory in Gurgaon, and out of that came the idea to Frank Taylor. He was a mechanical engineer, and he came up with Taylorism. He believed there should be an assembly line in workplaces, that this was the most effective way for people to function at a very high level. And so came Taylorism in the 1920s. But by the 1930s, we broke out. And here we have the Johnson Wax building, built by a very famous architect called Frank Lloyd Wright. And he broke away from this assembly line and had open plan, but he still kept the height and the grandeur of factories. So you had in this office, he called it a forest in the office. And you can see the desks are more splayed out, there's a little more privacy, and there's a mezzanine from where all the administrators could look down at the workers and observe them. And then we move on to the baby boomer generation from 1946 to 1964, and those are represented by my parents. They are anti-war, equal rights, equal opportunities. They were ambitious multitaskers, strong work ethic and collaborative. And my mother was educated, and she started her own architecture practice in Mumbai, the whole idea of equal opportunities rising for women. And so by 1960s, we have these interesting articles coming up. Would you let your daughter work in open plan? So we had women entering the workforce. And in those offices, you had introduction of what was called the modesty panel, which was a panel under the desk which would hide the ladies' legs, so to avoid distraction in the workplace. And then we had action offices in 1970. This developed from a gentleman called Richard Prost, who worked with the very famous Herman Miller Furniture Company. And he decided to move from open plan and have partitions in between, but still have a very collaborative space. This led to eventually the creation of cubicles, and often Prost is called the father of cubicles, but he very much detested that because he really wanted the spaces to remain interactive. Then we come to Generation X, which is me and my brother. We are balanced, diverse generation, educated, independent. We work to live. But the most interesting ingredient is tech literacy. This really came in our generation. So we got to really be diverse in what we learned. And during our time emerged the cubicle farm. So you can see the introduction of computers here. And in this gray soup, you had these repetitious cubicles coming into form. But in 2005, as the IT giants rose, in Silicon Valley, Google came and said, we no longer want the cubicles. And they hired an architect, Clive Wilkinson, and said, we want to go open plan, because computers had become laptops and now you could move out of the desks. And so open plan re-emerged again in 2005. Finally, we emerge and come to the millennials. And there's so many words connected with them, whether it's they're a global community, they've never lived without computers, they're fiercely independent, they're politically savvy, but more importantly, they have a sense of informality, a sense of collaboration, highly creative, and they enjoy flexible schedules. So, why do we need to start talking about Indian millennials? In the global workforce by 2020, 35% of workers will be millennials. But in India, 64% of the population will have millennials in the workforce. And out of this, it was interesting to note that 55% of millennials choose jobs based on the office space. So now that we've got the research, we've got to understand the manner in which the human psyche is affected by its surroundings. And so we started looking at workplace trends, and we see how the millennial background and understanding is affecting the working space. So we want less private areas, we want more flexibility. 50 to 60% of people do not sit at their desks anymore. They want 30 to 80% of agile spaces, breakout spaces. So as architects, this is our new client brief, drawn by a millennial. It's really what we are expected to churn out in workplaces. And it's become very factory-like. If you go to most of these co-working spaces, they're pretty similar. You'll find table tennis and golf, a couple of pantries. It's interesting. But the Indian workplace is different. We have 4 generations. So how do we cater to all these generations? So for architects, it is a balancing act, and I revert back to interpretation. So I take you through a small project that we did called Bombay House, which is the global headquarters of the Tatas. It's in Fort, and what was interesting about this project is it covered all the 4 generations, from traditionalists to millennials. And we started with research to understand what is the vision statement of the company. And it's a quote by Jamshedji Tata: what advances a nation is not so much to prop up its weakest and most helpless members, but to lift up the best and the most gifted, so as to make them the greatest service to the country. So this idea of commitment to philanthropy became the connecting thread across the office space. And we began voicing that through the vision of the company, ethics, integrity, leadership, and finally how it is a global leader. And we decided to do this in 2 ways, to connect the message and connect the generations, through archiving and through arts and crafts. So we began archiving, taking out all the archives and then putting up in them into various categories: pioneering, trust, community, and heritage. So for example, here you have a wonderful advertisement, India's Industrial Revolution, how Tata Group contributed to it. We have the commemorative stamp of Jamshedji Tata and the 4 founders and the Tata family tree. So in a very traditional setting, you have this history wall at the back, which drives you and makes you learn about the company that you're in and what has gone before. We then looked at various other companies, Telco, the first Tata Mercedes truck, and there you see truck artwork, very contemporary, something millennials can understand and connect to very easily. You had the role of women in Tatas, which was Lady Meherbai. She was the owner of the Jubilee diamond, which was believed to be twice the size of the Kohinoor diamond, but she pledged it to save Tata Steel in 1964. So the incredible role that she played as a woman within the Tata Group. And then of course the incredible history of the architecture, the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, for example, that remains an iconic structure in Bombay and for the country. So here, throughout the workplace, we had these narratives created which would connect people and generations with a message as well as give a sense of identity. And then we had art and crafts. We had existing busts of J.R.D. Tata and Jamshedji Tata, which we restored. So we keep what has gone in the past. But we also look into the future. We brought in artworks and crafts using plates from all around India. We used fabric and furniture that was made and sourced in India. This was the space for the support staff, the admin staff. Again, there were people who had worked with the company for 60 years and young people who had just joined in, and they wanted a landscape of Mumbai. And then we looked at each individual company. For example, Tata Power, we decided to run a competition of an art show for Generation Z, which is the upcoming generation, what they thought of power. And here you can see their artwork being converted into an art installation, which was then used in a breakout space. So there were messages from the future of what we envisage what a company can do. We support our rural workers, our arts and craftsmen, a resounding sense of India and where we come from. We support our young contemporary artists and had their work exposed, as well as Indian materials, but using them in a very contemporary way. We even incorporated the names of the directors, so what has gone before, but we left space for new directors to come as well. So very contemporary spaces, agile, using Scrabble, a game that connects all generations. And in high-end areas at the background, you can see a map of Mumbai, an old map from the 19th century where the location of Bombay House now stands. Bombay House really became, for us, an attempt to connect generations through history, through art, bringing in context, and bringing them up in technology and to 2.0. Traditionalist and the baby boomer, Mr. Ratan Tata and Mr. Chandrasekharan. And as they were immersed in this very contemporary setting, being very nostalgic at seeing what had gone before, but also very excited for a very high-tech space for their people moving forward. So what is the future of the workplace? The image on the left is a monk from the 16th century sitting and working. And it's almost as if he's working in his own little cubicle. We then moved on to Taylorism, which was this assembly line factory setting. Then we broke out into open plan with Frank Lloyd Wright. And then we reverted back into the cubicle farms. And somehow technology pushed us back into the open plan by Googleplex. So it seems like workplace very much has this cyclical journey as it traverses through time. And this has very much to do with technology, where we were and the journey and where we are today with so much of what we've discussed today with technology and how it has impacted us. And as we look forward, we are learning so much about artificial intelligence and robotics. And what does that mean for the workplace? Will we end up like the monk, but this time a very high-end monk, where you are in your pod and completely ensconced by technology? But we don't want it to become another cubicle farm. It should not be without reference, without context. And so our only hope as architects and designers is we are able to contextualize it. And a wonderful example to end is Hugh Hefner. Everybody knows he was the publisher of the Playboy magazines. But what people don't know is he was a brilliant businessman. His workplace was called the 24/7 bed. He actually designed this bed to be round, it rotated, it vibrated, it had several sections for cubby holes, for papers, for food, and he worked in his silk pajamas 24 hours, 7 days a week, making sure the quality of that publication was up to his standards. And he made a multi-million-dollar industry out of it. So I have to respect Sir Hugh Hefner in being able to create the ideal space that is mixed with all the elements: magic, serenity, sorcery, and mystery. Thank you.